how the differences are between the oila, the shlomim, and so on. And we were speaking about how oila, the carbon oila, is something that is brought totally for the Eberster. It's completely removed. The level of the carbon shlomim is something in the carbon chatos has to do with the kaihanim and their family. They could also eat from it. That shows that it's the way Atzilus has to do with the worlds already, but it doesn't really come down to the lowest levels. Whereas carbon shlomim, we said, is not only part of it goes on the mizbech, part of it is eaten by the kehanim and their families, but also the owners, the Yisraelim, can eat from the carbon shlomim as well. And that shows on the Yerida, the descent, how low is the hamshacha of carbon shlomim. It comes down here to the lowest level. This is all in continuation of a question that we started asking. I'm not going to go back to the first question of the minor. Why by shlomim did we say in yesterday's chumash it says vizois teiros hashlomim? In the shir chumash of Sunday it said zois teiros ha'oil. Shir chumash of Monday it says zois teiros hachatos. Comes yesterday's shir chumash it says vizois teiros hashlomim. We want to know why shlomim has that extra vote. And to get to that explanation, we are explaining these differences between the oila, the chatos, and the shlomim, how the shlomim comes down to the lowest level. So now you can continue, line 12 on page test, the 5th page of the mimer, Oizdal. And he continues to explain how is it possible that the fact that the owners who are Yisraelim, they don't do Dava in the Beis Hamikdash, and now in the stature of the Kohanim, not the level of the Achdus of the world of Atzilus, how is it possible that their eating should be part of the whole entire concept of the korban? The fact that the owners eat the meat of the carbon shlamim, surely this is not considered just a physical enjoyment. They are deriving pleasure from the physical carbon. Rather, the way they are eating is before Hashem. In other words, in the presence of Hashem. This is a godly experience. Similar to what it says in our davening, a Yom Tov davening, it says, "V'yismechu b'cha Yisrael." That when it comes to Yom Tov, there's a mitzvah of simcha. The Shabbos is not so much simcha. Shabbos is more kalos or Shabbos einig. That also brings down simcha Shabbos. But Yom Tov is emphasized the idea of simcha. At the same time, even though Yom Tov is emphasized the idea of simcha, what do we say in the Yom Tov davening? V'yismechu b'cha Yisrael. That the simcha that the Yidden are experiencing in Yom Tov is a simcha of the Eibush. So let's examine. What is the simcha of Yom Tov? So it says, Val simcha zu, the simcha of Yom Tov. Amr Rabbeinu Zal Chazal said, Ein simcha ella b'basar. There is no joy only through eating meat. So we have an interesting thing. Is it v'yismechu v'cha? Is it enjoying and having joy in Hashem, or having joy in eating the meat? Ein simcha b'basar, ein simcha b'yayin, which by the way means in the original sense, ein simcha b'basar and simcha b'yayin is referring to the simcha of the korbanos. So what joy is the meat? So we're seeing from the fact that we're saying that even though on Yom Tov and during the Karbanos, it seems to be a physical enjoyment, a physical pleasure, a physical happiness from eating meat, it's not the meat itself. It is rather a trigger or an enjoyment of the Eibush. So now the Rebbe is going to bring a very simple mashal. How is this so? Are we enjoying Hashem or are we enjoying the meat? So he's saying you can sit by a wonderful meal, and by that meal you're being served delicious food, but it's not about the food. Let's see inside line 19. Most of Leviathan, and he continues to explain over there in that Maimon of the Rebbe Manash. Things that Rebbe Manash Maimon. So Derech Marshall, for example, Adam, a person that makes a wedding for his son or daughter, or he is celebrating some good news. He's making a Suda Saidah, he's making a Siyum, whatever. Zaya is a mishta or Suda La'ayavav. So then he makes a party, he makes a meal for his friends. He wants to make a beautiful meal. Why? Because he wants his friends to enjoy the meal. He's not going to give them a piece of toast and some water to drink. He wants them to eat delicious food. From the fact that they delight from his meal, and they are rejoicing with his happiness in that delight of his meal. This causes the one throwing the party to have a big enjoyment. The Sibis calls that, and where does this all come from? Where does the entire enjoyment of the party and the food and so on? It's all derived. It's all coming about, and it's all derived from, it's all expressions of this essential delight that he has from the good news that he heard, or from the marriage of his child. That is said, the Ramarash goes on to explain similar to this. Is the delight of tzaddikim gan eden. So, that it's similar to the delight and enjoyment of a meal that a person makes for his friends when he's in a happy state. Because of all this, the derivation, the delight of tzaddikim in Gan Eden is all derived from and as a result of the fact, top of page Yud, from the true bittul of the yesh, of the tzaddikim, and from the enjoyment of his daughter. The Torah is likened to Hashem's daughter, Torah. So because of Hashem's deriving enjoyment from the tzaddikim's avodah bitla yesh, because of Hashem's deriving enjoyment of the Torah, so therefore he makes the meal. Meaning, what's the meal in this case? The Indian hataynu tzaddikim gan eden. It's the delight for tzaddikim gan eden. Then Hashem derives pleasure from the delight of tzaddikim in Gan Eden, just like the one who's throwing the party to celebrate a certain event, to celebrate the marriage of his child, is enjoying the fact that his friends are enjoying the meal and so on. In a similar vein, similar to this will be understood, the idea of carbon shlamim. Even every person that are not kohenim whatsoever, are enjoying and being happy from and delighting from the carbon. Not only the kohenim and the mizbeach like by carbon chatos, or the mizbeach only by carbon olam. All of this comes to them from the carbon, because the carbon is from above. Like we said, that when the kohanim eat, or they merit eat from the carbon, we brought before, that they are deriving benefit from the table of above. What does that mean? That's Michelle Gavoya. So the Rebbe goes on to explain, she's a moiral oitzema einiga elyon. This indicates the powerful supernal delight above. And then then he makes a meal for his friends. So it's that same type of relationship. It's not about the physical eating of the carbon shlomim. It's about Hashem enjoying and making a meal for us and wanting us to enjoy with him and celebrate with him. So it's really a spiritual thing. And to know after though from this above mentioned mush, it's understood that the main thing is the supernal delight above. Because of that enjoyment that Hashem has, he makes a meal for his friends, and he delights in their delight, and he enjoys that. Along with his it's explained in the Maimer, that the cause of the supernal delight above itself is from the avoid of tzaddikim. Therefore, also the delight of a tzaddikim, they are delighting from the meal of the king and are rejoicing in his joy. This is connected with their service. The Rebbe is pointing out something very interesting. Our initial question was about my eating the carbon shlamim. A Yisrael eating the carbon shlamim seemingly is like devoid and removed from the ruchnius. So we say no. Eating the carbon shlamim is a spiritual event. It's not about a hanor gashmi. It's lifnei Hashem. Then he brings the muscle of the Rebbe Marash, that the Rebbe Marash speaks about the enjoyment that the host has from the fact that his guests are enjoying and partaking of the simcha, of the wedding, etc., etc. So the muscle is not talking about what the Rebbe was bringing in to you, because the muscle was talking about, and in the nimshal, it's talking about Hashem's enjoyment from the avoid of tzaddikim. And here we're trying to understand our enjoyment of eating the carbon shlamim, that it's hanor gashmis. So for this, the Rebbe says, since the היינו of the Eibishter is not from something else. By the wedding, there is the person is making a wedding of his son, and he's feeding other people. Those people, his friends, have nothing to do with the wedding of his son. Those friends have nothing to do with the B'sura Tova that he heard. So they're just partaking of it, and he's enjoying their enjoyment because of his son's wedding. Here, there's a greater link. The people sitting and enjoying are part of the process of what caused Hashem's joy. The reason why Hashem is delighting and enjoying and making a meal for a tzaddikim in Gan Eden is because of the avodah that the tzaddikim did in Bit Layesh. Therefore, so the Rebbe says, line 18, the hu inyan schar mitzvah, that's the idea that the joy of the reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. The schar mitzvah, mitzvah ba'atzma, the reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. From this is the delight above, and therefore also the delight of tzaddikim. So in other words, the tzaddikim's enjoyment, and in a similar vein by extension, we're still busy explaining this, is going to be by the carbon shlomim. It's not, we are enjoying the physical thing, the tzaddik is just enjoying the delight, and the Eibishter has the delight from avoid of tzaddikim. No, the delight that the tzaddikim have in Gan Eden is a direct expression of the delight that Hashem had from their avodah, because they're interconnected in schar mitzvah. And in a similar vein, the Rebbe is going to go on to explain how that works with the carbon shlomim as well, that our delight and enjoyment is not about the physical meat, the physical carbon that we're eating, but it's about the spiritual thing, though we are manifesting it in the physical enjoyment of the carbon. Any questions before we go on to Isaiah?
So we're happy because we know Hashem is happy.
That's part of it, but part of it is, but even more so, we actually contributed to the project. We are enjoying the enjoyment of Hashem that we ourselves engendered. We can partake of that very enjoyment. That's what he's saying, schar mitzvah mitzvah. Our reward, our enjoyment, our schar is that we are tapping into Hashem's enjoyment of the mitzvah that we do. Okay, let's go on further. I say, page Yud, line 22. We still need to understand what's the reason that this drawing down below comes specifically through karm shlomim and not through karm chatas? Seemingly, though the eating of the kohen alone, which is the karm chatas, not like Yisrael eats in karm shlomim, indicates the amshach, the weights in the world of Atzilus. But as we mentioned, it still has connection with this world. Mikol Makim still in all. Hari amshach Elohim is bri yitzirasiyam. The way how it's drawn down to the worlds of bri yitzirasiyah, which is the actual location where the Kohanim are located in the world of Biyah. They're not located in Atzilus. They're experiencing Atzilus in Biyah. In such a way that it says concerning the rivers that came out of the river that came from Gan Eden. But this is used as an analogy for the worlds of Bri Yitzirasiyah that they separated from there. So here is a very interesting diuk that the Rebbe said. It says Misham Yipare. They separated from there. The separation is coming out from there. Always the emphasis is on the separation. The world of Biyah are worlds of separation. The world of Atzilus is the world of unity and oneness. The Rebbe is emphasizing over here is the separation has a root already there. In the world of Atzilus, there's already the kernel, the seeds for the division and separation. Haynu, line 29, that which is being drawn down into the worlds of Bri Yitzirasiyah comes already from the attributes, from the 6 midas of the world of Atzilus, like it says in the pasuk, as the Shema Gomer, top of your olive, that the 6 days made, meaning the 6 days doesn't say in 6 days, but 6 days, the 6 days themselves, meaning the 6 revelations of the Midas Atzilus. That's the way he's explaining Misham Yiparid. From there, meaning from the Midas of Atzilus, came about the separation, that the Midas came down into the worlds of Biyah. Again, since that's the case, why can't it come down to the worlds of Bri Yitzirah also through Karm Chatos? Because they are rooted in Atzilus, and Atzilus is the beginning of the separation of Biyah. So Karm Chatos seemingly should be able to accomplish this as well. Why do we need to have this drawing down into the world, specifically through Karm Shlomim? So the Rebbe goes on to say, line 4, V'yuvan says to be understood, according to the second analogy, the second metaphor about a meal. Before we brought the metaphor that when a person has a very joyous occasion, good news, a wedding, he makes a meal for all of his friends and he enjoys the fact that they're eating, etc. So there's another story about a meal. Brought down the Siddur, and the Maimer entitled Avodim Hayinu L'Farim Mitzrayim, which is the title of the Maimer. We referred to the Siddur as well before. When the king makes a meal, from the remnants, from the leftovers of the meal, even the low people can receive from that, even though in general the royal meal is like, a state banquet. It's only for important people, people that the king loves and people that the king relates to, etc. But also low people receive from the remnants, from the leftovers, like for example, servants and maid servants that are beyond the mill that they were working on. And to such a degree, to such a degree that even the dogs take part in this meal, and they eat the bones that's thrown under the table of the king. In the movement, it's not understood. How does it fit in what we explained before? That it says only the tzaddikim are able to derive pleasure from the meal, and this is because they themselves are responsible for it, and that those are the ones that the king loves, and because he loves, therefore he wants to share his good news and his enjoyment with them, and that's what he derives pleasure from. So how does this fit in with this other mashal that says, even the dogs, even the maidservants, even the servants derive? The Rebbe says in line 13, the explanation behind this is, in the Maimer, the first mashal that we brought before, of a person that makes a wedding for his son or daughter. What is son and daughter that the king makes a meal for their wedding? What is it in the Nimshol? Is that Shabbanoi Koyal Neshams Yisrael. And his son is referring to Yidden. And his Dobita, like we mentioned before, Koyal HaTorah is referring to Torah. That is the mashal that we brought before from the Marash. The Ilu Badrusha Besidah Mevoram mashal, as opposed to the Maimer that's in the Siddur. Explain the mashal in Melech Shaisis Sudastam from a king that makes an ordinary meal. It's a royal banquet, not to celebrate, not to mark a wedding or some other significant event. So it says, the difference between a wedding meal of a son or daughter or an ordinary meal, an ordinary meal is only drawing down from the external will of the king, and similarly only the external will of the Eibishter. Okay. Since it's only the external will, there's room, there's a possibility that the external ones, the klippos, could nurse from it. Similar to dogs, they collect crumbs from under the royal table. So the klippos are like these dogs, and because it's a meal of no significance by the king, or external significance, it's only chitzonius haratzon. From chitzonius haratzon, klippos could also take. I raise, okay, move on, like it's understood, and this mashal is often brought down to this, that a royal meal, even the crumbs, even the bones, even the leftovers of a royal meal is also very precious and shows very great wealth. Okay, moving like it's understood, even the crumbs under the royal table, this is great wealth. And the dogs collect it. The same thing, the klippos can get very great powers and so on from an ordinary meal of the king, from the level of the chitzonius haratzon of the Eibush. As opposed to a wedding meal of a son or daughter, this indicates something that's drawn down from Hashem's innermost will. The Hashem's innermost will is invested in the Torah, invested in the Yid. The Yaduan is known. The klippos can only nurse from the external level of the makif, not the inner level of the makif. The inner level of the makif means a place where Hashem manifests his purpose. Well, Pisa Yuvan, according to this, understood. Since the carbon chatos, which comes only because of the shisha midas, the way the shisha midas, the 6 midas, trickle down into the worlds of biyam. Therefore, l'chein loy nasas hamshach lamata ba'ilmas bri yitziratzia shel kedei sheloy tiyeh yinikas hachitzayim. Therefore, the Eibishter like holds it up. The Eibishter prevents it from coming down fully into the worlds of Bri Yitzirasiyah, even though the 6 midas do have to do with the worlds of Bri Yitzirasiyah. But in the case of Karm Chatos, Hashem does not want to allow the klippos to be able to nurse from that. So therefore, he puts a stop to that Amshacha. He doesn't allow it to come down from the Shisha Midas of Atzilus into Biyah, even though ordinarily they would come down. Only in Karm Shlom Sham Shachi, from the inner will of Hashem. The Amshacha comes down below in the worlds of Biyam in such a way that the external ones, the klippos, should not be able to nurse. Let's see if we can finish this mimer. According to this understood, what it says in the passage was this is the teaching. And this is the Torah of Zevach Hashlam. It says with a vav, v'zois bevav, as opposed to oil and chatos. It only says zois Torah chatos. In the zois beloy vav, when it says zois without a vav, zui b'chinas malchus pishi la'atzmi. Zois is the level of malchus itself, the feminine. V'zois bevav, when we add a vav to the letter, to the word v'zois, haynu shem schaberes u'mesachedes havav. Shu ze'er ampinim sirs malchus shenikra zois. We know the letter Vav and Yud Kei Vav Kei symbolize the 6 midas. So when we have Vizois, that's the 6 midas, the way they're joined with Malchus. Since through Karm Shlomim, we said before, the Amshacha comes down. Also into the worlds of Biyah, not like Chatos and definitely not like Olam. And how does that take place? The Shisha Midas have to be coming down to Malchus. Malchus through Midas coming down to Malchus. It adds a letter Vav. It indicates the joining of the Midas with Spheres of Malchus. Additional to this, Marash explains in the conclusion of the Ma'amar. Shlomim is like the plural of Shalom, twice Shalom. Shalom Lamata and Shalom Lamayla, both the Shalom above in the spiritual realms and the Shalom below. Shalom Lamata, what is it? The piece down here below. That is a revelation of godly light, also in the worlds of Biyah. Shalom Lamayla and the piece above, we're joining the letters of Yud Kei of Atzilus with Vav Kei of Atzilus. In the time of Golus, Ein Hashem Shalom, Hashem's name is incomplete. The Yud Kei is disconnected from the Vav Kei, which is a result of Amalek, as we'll soon go on to explain. Through Shlomim, the name became complete. Yud Kei and Vav Kei, the joining of the letter Yud Kei with Vav Kei. We could explain the connection between Karm Shlom and this idea of Yud Kei and Vav Kei. By the Karbonos, we offered on the Mizbeach the fat and the blood. Like the Rebbe always explains, offering the blood to Hashem, it's the idea of the passion, the boiling blood of holiness, that being passionate about holiness. It's the opposite of Amalek, which makes that separation between Yud Kei and Vav Kei, which Amalek is the idea of pulling a person down. So instead, we offer the blood on the Mizbeach, passion for holiness. So to the offering the fats on the Mizbeach, that fats is the idea of delight and enjoyment. Again, we're offering up our delight should be only in godly. It's also the opposite of Amalek. Why is delight and enjoyment for Kedusha the opposite of Amalek? The idea of Amalek is he throws in doubts. The light is only from something that's a sure thing, like it's brought down in the Maimon Chazal, Ein Simcha Katoras Asveikis. There's no joy like the release of doubts. Obviously, if you're in a doubtful place, you cannot be in a state of enjoyment. That's what it means, that through the offering of the karbanos, the seed of Amalek is erased, because we said that the idea of shalom, the peace between Yud Kei and Vav Kei. So therefore the name of Hashem is complete, and the throne of Hashem is complete, which means the union of Yud Kei and Vav Kei, and the throne is the level of Biasa, comes down even into the world of Biasa. So let's just conclude the mimer, how this has to do with Veitzeienu Hashem Elokeinu v'Beis Avodim. Zeu Avodim hayinu lefarim Mitzrayim. That's what it says that we were slaves to Pari Mitzrayim. And we said that how is it possible that it should be Avodim to Pari? Only because there wasn't Havaya Elokeinu. But if Havaya is Elokeinu, that ensures that it shouldn't be Avodim. Veitzeienu Havaya Elokeinu Misham b'Yochel Zakov Zarei Netuya, that Havaya Elokeinu took us out from there from a strong arm, a strong hand and an outstretched arm. Haynu Mitzrayim, when you Mitzrayim Mitzrayim is about constraints and boundaries. Fine, the avodah is not in such a way that we are offering up the fats and the blood. What's the difference between the fats and the blood and all the other limbs and organs in a person's body? Is blood is found through the entire body equal, circulates the entire body. So to the fats indicates the power of enjoyment. The power of the light, Chassidus says, is a makim. It encompasses the entire person. As opposed to all the limbs and organs of a person. Every single organ is limited in its particular location in the body and the specific function of that particular organ. And therefore, Mitzrayim, which is about constraints and boundaries, it's the opposite of bringing the blood and the fats. Then we're drawing down from Hashem's external will, because when our internal will is not invested, we don't have enjoyment, we don't have passion about Hashem. So Hashem's external will is all that's revealed to us. His passion, his enjoyment, his inner will is not revealed to us. Okay, then we find ourselves to be slaves to Pari. The letter that the word Pari makes up the neck. When they turn to me their neck and not their face. In other words, they don't do it with enjoyment. It's only with their back, with their external will. So then we are in a way of being enslaved to Pari. Through Havaya being our God, drawing down the Yud Kei Vav Kei in us, the joining, the Shem Shalom, the Kisei Shalom, coming down from Atzilus down to us. We feel that Havaya is our power and our life force. Then it becomes that Hashem takes us out with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. What is the hand and the arm that it's talking about? This is talking about Chesed and Gvura. Like we know, Chesed Droya Bina, Gvura Droya Smala, Chesed is the right, Gvura is the left. It's such a way that it comes down below and Chesed and Gvura in the chain descent of cause and effect. That prior to this, it's only in a way of nursing from the mazolas it's brought down in Kabbalah. But here it's coming down the actual Chesed Gvura, the boy from the Heinu Mazel. It's not in such a way that we're only nursing from the level of the mazolas above, which is a very limited thing, like a nursing, and a mazel is only in a nezila, a dripping. It's in a way that's mamish enclosed, the full revelation. By days of Nasa, Mitzrayim, through that becomes the leaving Mitzrayim. We can make says come out Mitzrayim and the floors like your days going on in the land of Mitzrayim. I will show you wonders. The true and complete redemption through Mashiach Tzidkenu very soon.